All right, welcome everyone to Empower 2021, one of the first for today. So, good morning, everyone. Um, this is the Empower 2021 virtual conference for nonprofits and charities. So, we're going to be talking about some use cases today about automating your process in Microsoft Teams. Now, the format today, we're just going to um, I'm going to talk about the agenda in a bit, but just a reminder, if you have any questions, on the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a Q&A section. Feel free to ask any questions in there. And what we'll do is we're going to approve them as we go through. And if you see any questions that you have very similar to what you have, feel free to upvote them or like them, and this will bring it up to the top, and we'll kind of go answer them as we as we prioritize them. So we'll do the Q&A at the end, but we'll breeze past this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you folks are probably familiar with a lot of the concepts. But feel free to ask any questions. If we don't capture your questions right off the bat, we'll be sending out an email just to make sure we have them answered. Right. So first of all, I'm your speaker today. My name is Keith Vivekananda. I'm a solutions architect. So what that means is organizations come to me with their business or use case problems that they deal with, and I find different ways that we can help them maybe digitize the processes that they're looking with. So I'm specifically around the business applications that you work on a daily, things like automation or your records management, etc. So I've been here at ProServeIT for 3 years now. So let's talk about the agenda and what we're looking to cover. So I know you folks, once again, you're probably sick and tired of hearing this. You know, we've been through a pandemic last year. A lot has changed. We don't work like how we usually do. But I want to break down what we've actually learned during the pandemic. Not a lot of people have talked about this. Um, and we're going to figure out some of those lessons learned and how can we take that and figure out where we are now and then figure out where we want to go, right? And then I'm going to speak about Power Automate and what that is and how it can help us with the lessons learned during the pandemic. And then we're going to actually take a look at specifically a demo. And then from there, we'll have the next steps and the Q&A. So, like I said before, I know you folks are really sick and tired of hearing of the pandemic and what's been going on, but there's a lot of changes that have really shifted the way that we've worked, but also the way organizations, and I'm not only talking about nonprofits and charities, but even corporations are bringing about change differently, right? So right off the bat, everyone knows that we're remote. Everyone's working in different ways remotely, and a lot of organizations are looking to carry this on into the future as well too. So a lot of companies, organizations are starting to hire remote workers for their admin work. You can get into meetings with these people, you can collaborate with them, and it's something that it's sort of this put air quotes around it. It's the new normal that they're talking about. So what we also found out too is because things have sort of slowed down during the pandemic, and for the foreseeable future, a lot of people and the organizations that we have worked with, they have been coming to us because it's a perfect time to perfect the processes that they've been doing for a very long time. And what I mean by that is a lot of organizations, they haven't really sat down and haven't really thought about how they do stuff or the workflows that they work with, right? So it's a perfect time right now because it's a bit slow to perfect some of that. And you might have heard of this before, but agile changes have been happening. So agile has been a huge thing in the software industry for a very long time. And just to give you a quick comparison, waterfall method is basically I'm going to do X, and when X is finished, then I'll move on to the next step, Y. And then once Y is finished, or whatever feature is finished, then I'm going to move over to Z. So XYZ has been always the plan, and it's going to like a step process. Now, agile changes. it's completely different where maybe why is a priority right now. So I'm going to work on why, and then do like a whole test plan, etc. And what that means is with agile changes, organizations, especially when they had to go remote immediately, it usually would have taken maybe a year to plan that kind of move. There would have been like a huge approval process, a lot of people involved, but a lot of IT departments and HR departments have had to flip the switch really quickly to get people into Microsoft Teams or into Slack, whatever remote working tools that you're using. So it doesn't take as much planning. It's just more about doing and then learning from these changes so we can go on to another piece of the puzzle, right? So that's what we're going to talk about too as well today. And then finally, what we've learned of too as well is because everyone's trying to do these changes, it's the perfect time to build these processes. A really huge buzzword that's been big this year is automation. How can we automate? But the key concept that I want to take away is a lot of people have learned that automation is not about replacing everything. There's a lot of human aspects, and we'll talk about some of these today, that are not something that you can actually automate at this time, at least, right? There's a human aspect of maybe you've spoken to someone a phone conversation and maybe said, okay, I'm going to be gathering this amount of dollars of donations on month A, month B, month C. And because you're going to be collecting a lot of money during month C, maybe I need to send out a gift basket during that time. There isn't something that once again, there's that human aspect of this will make this a lot better for the donor and maybe entice them to do a bit more or make a decision better, right? So automation is not about replacing everything. This is a very key thing. It's more about I don't want to spend time doing menial tasks. I want to spend more time, and we'll talk about this in the next slide. I want to spend more time building up and scaling the organization that I work with. I want to be part of the missing piece and help this organization grow. Right. So let's talk about where a lot of you might be today. If you have gone on to do remote work, you might have already been up and running in Microsoft Teams here. It's completely fair. Sorry, Microsoft Teams is one point, but you might be in Slack, you might be in Google Chat, whatever, or even Salesforce. There's so many different tools that you can use for remote collaboration. If you aren't in this process just yet, that's completely fair. Now's a good time to start. But the whole process is let's bring our work online so we can start working on it. What you might be seeing though is you might be using multiple applications just to do one task. So you might get an email through Outlook, then you might have to take that and put it into Razor's Edge because there has to be information filled out. Then you have to send out an email to one of your colleagues because you have to get something approved within Razor's Edge. So this is very common just to do one task, and it's that one task, and you'll see it. You see here at the top. It's that repetitive task that you do every day. If it's a task that you do every day and it's a manual workflow, which you see here at the right-hand side, and it's a repetitive task, or maybe even it's not an email, maybe it comes in as a literal piece of paper. This is where it's perfect for something like automation, right? So everything you see here on the screen, as far as where are you now, if you are going through a lot of these, or a combination of these, or even all of these, that is a perfect example of something you can automate or should be automating. Especially if avoiding your email inbox getting messy, like here it says right at the bottom right hand corner. Email inboxes are messy with unnecessary communication and attachments. What we mean by that is just even going back and forth. Hey, can you do this, can you do that, and then maybe attachments on top of that, so you will have maybe 4 or 5 different emails just going back and forth. This is the latest copy, that's the latest copy of this one letter, right? And I'll show you how we're going to figure out how not to do that. And you know what? I've been working with a lot of organizations where here at the bottom left hand side it says all the things I need are at the office. Um, we need to figure out different ways to bring those physical documents. Maybe we can find different ways just kind of archive it now, but maybe the new documents that we work with should be in the cloud or it should be in a server somewhere where you can, pick up this information anytime and we can bring it into these workflows, right? So very quickly, I'm going to get a tiny bit technical. I'm not going to spend too long in it. There's a lot of tools within the Power family at Microsoft, within the Microsoft ecosystem. Um, we're going to be focusing on Power Automate, but Power BI is for your reporting. Power Apps is for your very quick app development. Power Automate is specifically about process automation. I'm going to give you an example of this, but all of these tools connect together, and that's why a lot of organizations, if you are using Microsoft a lot, it's just better. Some of you already have the licenses for this, but it allows it everything to connect together. However, with that being said, there are connectors to go even further. You know what? Like maybe 10 years ago, Microsoft was a bit restrictive of connecting things together, but now a lot of organizations are working together. So even though Microsoft and Facebook and Google and Amazon might be competitive with each other, they still work with each other to create some of these little plugs so you can connect Microsoft Teams to your Facebook's ad statistics, or you can connect it to your Wunderlist list of things of your to do. Right, you can see on the screen this list even goes to about maybe as of today 250-ish connectors that are out of the box, but you can actually create your own connectors too as well. So with that said, hopefully that was a good overview of what we are going to talk about today. And now we're going to get into the demo. So I'm going to sort of get into a day in the life of, and usually we would, after a donor, I get off a call from a donor. Um, that person has said, maybe I want to contribute maybe $5,000. That's great. We've been looking for this $5,000, and this is great that we've kind of closed it. So I want to send out a fundraising letter just to commit. So usually I would probably type it up. Maybe I have a template saved somewhere on my desktop. So I'll just type it up and maybe fill in some things, and then but the thing is I have to send it out to my manager for approval, if it's maybe a certain dollar amount, or even send it out to my colleagues at the fundraising team. Maybe there's 3 or 4 of us, right? So that's usually how we have to do it. But the problem is I have to send this by email. Maybe I have to follow up with people. It does kind of get annoying. So I'm going to show you a live demo of how we would do it with Microsoft Teams here. So I'm in my Microsoft Teams right now, and what we see is just the fundraising team. For a lot of you folks, this might be very familiar, and it's a lot of you have been working in Microsoft Teams recently. So completely fair if a lot of these are just kind of a rehash of what we've done. But what I'm going to do is click on a new feature. It's called lists within Microsoft Teams. Some of you might have been taking advantage of. Um, and what it does is it gives you different lists that you can do. And what I've done is every time I create a list item, it automatically does a bit of a flow in the background. So I'm just going to click on create new here. Actually, sorry, before I do that, I'm going to show you here. I do have the template here stored. And that's the fundraising letter template that we have. So you'll see it filled out in a bit. I'm going to create a letter, and then I'm going to click on the new item. And now the information that we have here, it's very simple and straightforward. You can add multiple different columns in here, and it's sort of like mail merge if you have done it before. So I'm just going to give a fake name here, McEwen account. And it's maybe George McEwen. And George says he wants to give us 5,000. So I'm going to save this. Now, so it's been added to this list. This is just a way that we track it. But once again, the whole point of automation is this is sort of the trigger. So do this, and then as soon as sorry, the Power Automate waits here and says, okay, the next time you add something to the list, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. So I'm going to click on Files here. And then I'm going to go to the working folder, because once it completes the template, it puts it into the working folder. You'll see the final folder, what it does, but we're going to sorry, we're going to come back to that in a second. So the thing about Power Automate, it does take a quick second. So I'm just going to refresh it here. So here it is. This was created a few seconds ago. We're going to open it. And the cool thing about, once again, the more stuff you bring into Microsoft Teams, just notice that I'm only doing everything in Microsoft Teams. I'm not moving from Outlook to email just yet, right? I'm not going back and forth. So this was the template we had. We've already filled out, I haven't done anything, and it's already taken the date, which is today's date, his name, and then right here I have $5,000, and it also it picked up my name too as well, because I'm logged in, as you can see right here at the top right hand corner. I'm logged in as myself, so it's all picking up all this dynamic information. So I'm going to close this, and what I'm going to do is do the second part, which is sending it over for approval. So I'm going to take it a bit I'm going to take it a bit further, and I'm going to open it in SharePoint here. So all the files within Microsoft Teams are actually, this is a little tip, it's actually hosted in SharePoint. So whenever you create something in Teams, create a team, it creates a SharePoint in the background. Anyways, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to click on the three dots here, click on Automate, and what we're looking for is the flow. It should, right here, the letter approval flow that we custom created. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to ask me a pretty important piece of information. It's going to ask me how much is this, how much is the donation amount going to be. And the reason why, okay, it's not important right now. I'm going to put 5,000, but when it's under $10,000, I want it to be sent to the rest of the team to be approved. But if it's over $10,000, then it should send a direct message to a higher approver, maybe the manager, because only the manager maybe has to look at it, right? So I'm going to let it do its thing right now, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to show you a day in the life of someone different. So this would be in the approval side. So usually, if someone, if Steph sends me a letter to approve, and I'm the manager, or even just one of her colleagues, I would look at the letter, maybe make some changes, and that's my approval, because I'm sending it back to her in the email, right? But if we're going back and forth, that kind of gets messy. There's multiple emails we're dealing with, etc. And maybe maybe I'm busy, and then Steph, it's been 5 days, and then Steph has to call me up, or maybe, message me, go back and forth. So there's a lot of back and forth that we can probably get rid of, and a lot less time spent doing those small things, where we can just automate a lot of this. So today, what I want to do is myself, I want to look at the letter, I want to approve it, and then let the submitter know that it's been approved. And then finally, it should create a PDF automatically, because we want to send over PDFs, not a Word document, to the maybe to print it out to the printers or something like that. Or even it's nice to have PDFs being sent out rather than changeable Word documents. So I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you the approval process. So we're going to go back to the fundraising Microsoft team. And if we go to the posts, what we'll see is a new message. And this is in the fundraising general team. Because it's under $10,000, it's going to go into the Microsoft team, so anyone can approve it. So I'm just going to look at this. and this is the link for it. I'm just going to click approve here, and I can enter my comments or whatever. So good job or something. And I'm going to click on submit. And what it does, it takes a quick second here. And what it does is I could approve it or reject it. But right here, uh, just to show more here, it just gave me a notification. It just tagged me. And this is a direct link to the letter. This is the outcome. It's been approved. Good job. Was a was a comment that we entered, but that's exactly what we're looking at here. So that's been approved. Now, if we go to the file section, and remember that final folder that I talked about earlier, I'm going to click on final. And right here, a few seconds ago, the George McEwen one. So I'm going to click on that one. And this is a PDF that was created exactly with, let me zoom in here. So this is exactly how we created it. That's that template. I can click on this and I can send it out through email, maybe send it to the printer, whatever. That's like the final format here, right? So once again, just to show you very quickly, I'm going to go into my messages just because we don't have a lot of time here and I want to get to Q&As. But these are personal messages. You can see it says dollar amount is 12,000. So as an approver, if it goes over 10K, it actually comes to me directly. So it's the exact same thing, approval or not approved. But the whole option here is I can go into, when I send it out for approval, I could set that dollar amount, or it could be different things. Maybe it's a different type of letter, and you can select and say, this is a donor letter, this is a thank you letter, this is a different types of letter, and maybe it has a different logic to say, because it's a donor letter, maybe Steph is the one that has to approve of it. Maybe because it's a thank you letter, maybe it's Keith that needs to approve it. So you can have those kind of cool workflow logic differentiations. And that's the whole point of the automation, is to, we make some decisions during approval workflows. So you can do those kind of logic trees and build them out. Finally, the whole point of this exercise, besides automation, is everything is all in one area. So when I go back to the files, like I showed you before, and click on General here, all the working documents, I can come back and take a look at here. If I want to make changes, let's say as an approval, I don't want to approve it just yet, I can go back in here and it's a live document, right? So instead of an email chain of 50 different documents, all the changes during the approval, before the approval, even after approval, I can make the changes here. So in the Word document, so as an approval, instead of rejecting it, so it's going to be very rare that you reject it unless you don't want to work on it. But maybe as an approver, I want to go in and make the changes itself. So a lot of good features here. And once again, that's exactly what we're looking to do. And what we've done is become a lot more efficient and do this quickly, instead of, we've done this in a few minutes versus a few days just to get an approval, because we're going back and forth. We're looking for a good copy of it. It's there. You can add different notifications every day, or every 2 days, just to check up on people during their approval. So there's many ways you can expand out on this. Now let's talk about next steps before before we move into the Q&A. But the very first step, I'm going to kind of leave you with a bit of how we do it with different organizations. So what we usually do is we sit down with a lot of the people who are subject matter experts, especially on processes. And you can do this in-house too as well. But first of all, you have to figure out a list of a lot of these processes. And that's the number one thing. If you have not defined your process, which is very common, you would be surprised. A lot of organizations have not done this. You have to sit down and say, what is step A, what is step B? At step B, what happens if X, Y, and Z happens, or A, B, C happens, and then it becomes sort of like a tree beyond that. So first you have to define that. Once you've defined it, you have to prioritize them. Is this something that I do maybe once a year? If it's something that I do once a year, maybe it's not of as much value as something I do every day, or multiple times per day, even multiple times per week. So it's all about prioritization and getting that workflow going. Once you've done that, you'll have sort of like a roadmap, and you can kind of tackle it one by one. Now, I have some packages that we have here, and these are packages specifically for process automation. We do the exact thing, except we have a lot of the experience. We can help you build it. Now, these are monthly costs too, as well, depending on where you are in the journey. But what this allows you to do is every month you're able to focus on one of the process automations we're talking about that we want to do during this automation roadmap. So within the automation roadmap, we'll go one by one every month and build it up, or even just take one process and keep building it out and making it larger and larger. So once again, this is something your organization can take on yourself. If you need a bit of help, we're here to as well. So feel free to reach out to us at cloud@proserveit.com, or check out the Microsoft Team packages on our website here. So with that being said, I am going to switch over to the Q&A here. And I do see a few questions here. Okay, so there are a few sessions. So can you see a log of all changes in the approval process? You can see, yes, you can go in the background, but not only that, SharePoint has logs. Power Automate has logs too as well. You can even create logging too as well if you want a bit more detail, and maybe output it into a document. There's many ways. So yes, you can see a log or create a different, more modified log for that. So if I create a document in Teams, how do I know the security that is on the SharePoint site that is created in the background? Can it be checked? So it's the exact same security. So if you go into Microsoft Teams, and whoever is a part of that private team, or if it's a public team, that's the same exact security. So you just have to click on the three dots. Actually, let me show you very quickly. Just click on the three dots here and click on Manage Team. And as you can see here, the role, you can change the security over here. So if no one has access to that team, they will not have access to those documents in SharePoint. Is there a CRM you recommend that works seamlessly with Microsoft Teams? Obviously, Microsoft Dynamics would probably be the answer, but like I said, Salesforce, they have connectors to it. If you have anything like HubSpot, there are connectors built ready for that kind of connection. So if you already have those, that works well. I know a lot of people use Razor's Edge too as well. I don't think there's one available yet, but you can also create them using APIs. Not to get too technical there, but you are able to manually create those kind of things. I would probably recommend though Dynamics, because you have the nonprofit accelerators built into it. So what that means is you just click here or there. I'm kind of oversimplifying. There is some configuration, but a lot of the fields are already created, and a lot of the business processes are created based on Microsoft doing a lot of research around nonprofits. So it's sort of like it's almost open box like Razor's Edge too as well. How do you create a template and corresponding workflows? Are there any documents that describe this process, or how to set something like this example up? You know what? I don't mean this in a funny way, but this is exactly what I would do whenever I'm learning anything. You could definitely Google it. That's exactly how I learned about this. I don't have a direct link to that. Maybe Todd, I can maybe send you something directly, or do it as part of the Q&A. But there are a lot of stuff on Google on creating a template in Microsoft Word for Power Automate. Search exactly that. I think that's exactly what I searched for a few like when I first started this, and it will show you exact steps on how to do it. But with Microsoft, I can tell you right off the bat, you just go into Microsoft Word, and then you're able to go into the development toolbar, and then you can add these specific mail merge type fields. Okay, I'm just going to publish a few before I call it a wrap here. Let's see here. Okay, could the final step in the flow be to save somewhere other than SharePoint? Ideally Box. So Box is one of the connectors. You can do that. You could even do Dropbox. You could do even Google Drive maybe. So yes, you can do that. The good thing though, I would rather keep it in SharePoint, unless you're not paying for Box. The reason why I'm saying is because Word, Excel, PowerPoint, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, Power Automate for O365, it's all included as part of the license. So that might be a good way to come over maybe to SharePoint. Um, your file name was docx.pdf. How do we prevent that from happening? That's a good catch. I was hoping, Travis, that no one would see that, but that was just a mistake that I made. I could just go back into the workflow and delete that. I can edit it to not do that. So I did miss that step. Good catch there, Travis. Um, can we add custom columns to the list option? Yes, definitely. Um, those 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 columns that I added and the questions that it was asking me, those were all custom. So the dollar amount, that wasn't there. It's just the main thing that it asked for is the title. That's something that's defined. But then every single column after that is definitely is doable. Okay, I think that's it for now. We are way over. Hopefully that was helpful for you folks. We will have the sessions posted on our website. You will get an email on how to access those. But for now, hopefully that's giving you enough information that you can at least get started. Like I said, the very first thing, make sure you are writing down and looking at the processes, and then looking at automation, and kind of prioritizing the automation that makes sense. Anyways, thank you for your time, everyone. Have a good rest of Empower 2021.